Hi, this is Ken Flaspohler, and you're here for another episode of REMAX 365. I'm here with one of my agents, Kris Fabrizius, this morning. How are you, Kris?
Good, how are you?
Hey, we talked a couple weeks ago, Kris, about a recent trip you took to St. Louis. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, the kids and I just did a little back-to-school road trip, went to St. Louis, visited some friends. We went to the zoo, went to City Market, had a great time, did a little shopping, so.
How was the city market there? Is it like our city market?
It's actually, I'm sorry, City Museum. It's
City
a
Museum.
City Museum, and it's just this crazy place. I mean, there's a lot of activities for kids, and they've got caves, and it was very interesting. So.
Well, St. Louis is so close to us. I've been actually talking about trying to get there myself for a couple of years and haven't made it. So I thought I'd mention that when I heard you went there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Our spotlight today is on Kris. I want to talk about a little bit about your business, Kris. When you work with seller clients, what can they expect from you?
You know, when I go into a home, and I kind of preface it before I even go into their home, I call them up and I say, here's what I expect. I expect, a house must be clean, it must be decluttered. There's several things that I tell them even before going into the property. Smells. And I tell them that in advance so they don't feel like if I walk into their house, maybe I'm tearing it apart. I preface it so they know what to expect when I walk into a property. When I do walk into a property, I go through each and every room. What needs to be changed, what needs to be taken out, if there's any smells that would hinder the room, carpet needs to be changed, paint, touch-ups, anything. I make sure they have a detailed list of all the items that I require before even putting it on the market.
It seems like one of the things over time that I hear over and over is how important that is, that impression in which houses sell, the better conditioned houses. Tell me a little bit about when you go see other houses that maybe aren't quite like that. What's your impression and the buyer's impression of that?
Well, and I tell, a lot of my sellers are buyers, so we're out looking for their next home, and they're questioning me, well, why do we need to do this? I open linen closets, and I'm like, I want your towels stacked perfectly. I want openness, and they're like, I don't get it. And I will take them into someone's house that is not up to par, and they're like, get it. And then I take them to another house that's clean and well manicured, and the house looks great, and everything's just in perfect order, and they're like, I see your point. It just makes them feel like the house that they're buying is well maintained and taken care of.
I think that's the key point that I always notice. When a house appears to be well maintained, the buyer has a better impression
Absolutely.
of the property.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about buyers. What do you, when you work with buyers, what do you try and focus on with them?
With buyers, I kind of do a step-by-step process. I sit them down. I like to bring them into my office before we go out and look at homes. And I do a questionnaire with them and say, what are you looking for? What do you expect from me? And basically, I go through the entire process. I work with a lot of first-time buyers, and they have no idea what to expect in this process. So I actually give them a list. This is what to expect from this point on. Once we go to contract, we're gonna get with an insurance agent. We're gonna get a home warranty. We're gonna work with home inspectors, and they have a list of all the names and numbers for them to contact, and they know step-by-step process from contract to closing what to expect at any time.
How do you, just a curious side thought here, how do you like to communicate with people? The voicemail, the text, the emails, what's the latest?
Certain things for me I do like in writing, just so there's no misunderstandings, but clients want that personal touch. They still want you to pick up the phone and call them. A lot of the younger clients, they like the text. They love to text, and so I've learned to text over the past few years. But I still like that personal touch, and I think sometimes things are kind of construed differently when it is through email or through text messaging. So it depends on the client. It's whatever a lot of them just say, hey, just shoot me an email. It's easier to get a hold of me that way.
Now, I know your kids aren't quite old enough there yet, Kris, but I know as they get older, sometimes texting will be the only way you'll communicate with them. It sometimes get to that point. Let's talk about, those are great things. I think your track record has proven out very well for you, Kris, and those things are great attributes to have. What would you think is the greatest strength you have to bring to your client?
I would say I am very involved with the transaction. There are so many things that realtors do that buyers, sellers don't understand. And if they don't know those things, I think that's even a better attribute, because I am doing a bunch of work behind the scenes that they have no idea. My job is to make the transaction go as smooth as possible. I am very involved with my clients. I have clients for life. I have raving fans and letters from them thanking them, and 5-6 years down the road they're sending me family pictures. So I feel that I and there's some clients, they just want a house sold, they don't want that personal touch. Majority of my clients, they do, and I think that I add that. I'm also a big supporter, REMAX is a big supporter of CMN and also the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And I too am a big supporter of that. And every property I sell, I donate a portion of my proceeds to Children's Miracle Network.
Great thing. I think that's a wonderful attribute to have. Let's talk about the market a little bit. Kind of a strange market here this August. One of the things that I am trying to bring, last week we talked about some of the sales statistics. Today I want to talk a little bit about marketing time. One of the things that I have really, shall we say, enjoyed talking about over the years are the statistics of how many houses sell in the first 60 days on the market. Kind of what you said about how you stage your properties. Almost 50% sell in the first 60 days. How do you take that?
Well, and that goes back to condition and price. I mean, you can't change your location, but, sellers will go in and say, let's just try, let's say it's a 150 house, and let's just try 160 for a couple weeks and see what happens. If they like the house, they'll make an offer, right? No, they won't. It's the same thing when I go in and I talk to sellers and I'm like, your condition, and I said, your carpet, it's really 10 years old, we need to replace it. Well, let's just see what they say, let's see what the feedback is. I'm like, you have that one chance to make that first impression. And if you're not making that first impression, they're going to find another house. And then by the time I get you to replace the carpet, then we're also reducing the price because we've been on the market so long.
It seems like that's one of the biggest things that I think we all deal with, a seller that says, let's price it just a little high and see what happens.
Right.
And I think they then kind of wonder 90, 120 days down the road, what could have been done differently? And it comes back to just what you said. What do you say to them then? How do you correct the problem 90, 120 days later?
You kind of got to go into it too and say, statistically, look at how houses sell, and they're not, 50% of them sell within the first 60 days. At the same point, it's like, if we wait 120 days to lower the price, you're going to get even a lower ball offer. In their minds, their thing is like, well, they're going to make an offer anyway, so let's just shoot high. You're killing yourself.
Doesn't always work that way,
No,
does it?
not at all.
I wish more sellers could understand that. Well, I think this is great information. I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming and joining us today, Kris. Hopefully you'll be on the show again soon.
All right.
Thank you and
thanks.
have a great day.
You too.